First and 12. A weekly roundup of America's most competitive football conference, the Big 12. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It's another edition of First and 12 right here on KSL News Radio. Mitch Harper, Alex Kirry, thanks for being with us on the program. Let's kick it off right here. It's that time of the week for us to be able to talk about our game of the week, and this one was big time. Let's get right to it.
The big time, Big 12, Game of the Week on First and 12.
If you would have told me 5 years ago that this would, one, be a conference game and then to be the game of the week, I would have said, you're crazy. That's crazy life in the Big 12. It's a different league. Arizona takes down Cincinnati 30-24. Arizona, man, they're playing some good ball. They are 7-3 now, year 2 under Brent Brennan. Meanwhile, Cincinnati also 7-3, but it feels a lot different than what Arizona's going through. Cincinnati last week was in the top 25 rankings of the poll, but they lose. They're now on a 2-game losing streak, while Arizona is trending up and looking to maybe have a chance to, if they can win out, get to a 10-win season if you include a bowl game. So quite the impressive turnaround for Arizona, who, when you think about it, Alex, they could easily be a 9-1 football team, how close they were to BYU and to Houston.
Yeah, and both, like, you know, not just last-minute losses, but like the heartbreaking fashion, too. You think about that overtime thriller against BYU. The only time they trailed was at the very end when BYU scored. So it's a tough spot to be in with the – I mean, look, every team does this every year. What if that would have happened in that game? It just so happens that Arizona is, I mean, look, they're a decent football team. They've been playing really well. Going into Houston and playing to that level is not insignificant. And it also shows, too, like, it's not, I don't necessarily think that it's that Cincinnati is trending so far down. I do think Brendan Sorsby's hit a dry patch, so to speak, and he's struggling right now because he's a guy who barely turned the ball over. I think the stat that I saw was it was 293 pass attempts with 1 interception, and then it was like the last 17 pass attempts has been 4 interceptions. You're like, man, this is a mess. But, you know, this happens in a football season. You play against teams and the ball is funny shaped, and that's the way that this thing goes down. So in the end, I think Arizona is a better team than we probably gave credit to. And I don't think Cincinnati is the world beater that maybe we signed them up for pretty early on. But they still have a shot, an outside shot of being able to get to the Big 12 championship game. So it's not that the season is totally lost on them. And it's going to be interesting to see how this thing played out. I just thought that the Arizona defense kind of showed the blueprint to a team like BYU who's going to go into Cincinnati this week. And already a team who is, you know, what we would consider a ball-hawking team. When you talk about a team that you'd be nervous to throw the football against if you're already struggling a little bit, that defensive backfield for BYU probably sees some film and goes, we're smelling blood in the water here. Now, Cincinnati's also a pretty decent team on the ground, but the question is how healthy are they in the running back room? How well are they going to be able to do to move the football? Because that is a way that you're going to be able to mix this thing up. But Arizona, like I said, athletes on that team, and Brent Brennan does a phenomenal job getting guys ready. And I hope that nobody's wondering about a hot seat for him or wondering about what kind of a spot that they're in. They're definitely going to miss Noah Fifita, but I'm glad that he has – think about what he's doing compared to what we're watching like Avery Johnson do or Jalen Daniels, who we've 100% forgotten about at Kansas at this point, right? Or Kansas overall that we've forgotten about. Like, Noah Fifita – had a bad year last year and came back and is having a way better season, and Arizona deserves a lot more credit I think they're probably getting right now.
Well said. I think, honestly, Arizona, not Arizona State, should have been the team that's number 25 in the college football playoff rankings. Now, for the Big 12, it's nice to have ASU in the rankings because they still have a mathematical chance of reaching the Big 12 championship game. And I know ASU's got that win over Texas Tech, but as far as maybe that game in a couple weeks when the Territorial Cup rolls around, that's going to be a toss-up game. But, yeah, Fifita was great, 294 passing yards, 1 touchdown. You bring up Sorsby, you know, he was dealing with a little bit of an ankle. He went into the medical tent, came back. But it seems like they're really struggling with this man-press defense from teams. It's been consistently happening against Cincinnati. And when you bring up blueprint, Utah did it, and BYU has kind of a carbon copy of how Utah does things defensively. Obviously different terminology, but same philosophies. I think that could work out well for BYU. But Cincinnati is expected to get Evan Pryor back, their running back, this week. That could help the cause. They got some good production from Tawee Walker, brings that thunder and lightning in the backfield.
They're
for the
almost
ground
200
attack.
a game.
They're good.
It's a good running
backfield.
team.
And, I think Cincinnati, I think the bigger picture you look at with Cincy in this game, because I think some of their fans are feeling like, oh, here we go again. Satterfield is a fraud. Like, get him out. We should have canned him after last year. I think they've shown enough progress, regardless of what happens the rest of the way, that you still keep going with him into year 4 next year. Because still, I didn't honestly, like, I know in the preseason I said, hey, after that Nebraska game, they might be a competitive team, 6 or 7 wins. I think they've got to that ceiling that I thought they could, and they can actually exceed that. So I feel like this has been a successful year for Cincinnati, and Arizona absolutely a success. I think the issue for Arizona is when you think, again, long-term, because they're out of the picture for the Big 12 championship, can they actually build on it? Because Arizona and the ASUs of the world, they always have these big years, and then they bottom out. And so that's going to be the challenge in front of Brent Brennan, and to have someone like Noah Fafita, who still has 1 year of eligibility remaining.
That's crazy.
Arizona could build some momentum going into the offseason if they close strong.
Are we already going to start thinking about who our preseason picks are going to be for next year?
Way too early 2026 rankings.
Hey,
let's go.
What we should just start doing is we'll have this year's power poll, but then let's start adding the 26 power poll at the same time.
Yes.
Because it'll be very different, and it might
it might look totally crazy from what we've seen this year.
It is crazy, and this league, though, I think what's highlighted is that the depth of the league has gotten better, and I think matchups like this do show that, where you've got 2 7-3 football teams. Maybe the logos aren't glamorous, but when you watch these teams play, they're very good, sound football teams, and they're committed to the portal. They build through the portal, and they're competitive in that space, and that's just something that when you do think long term, and when guys like Brett Yormark and this conference are excited about the future, it's because of teams like that showing that progress year over year, because both of these teams last year were just afterthoughts and not very good, but they stayed invested and committed. I think that's promising long term for the Big 12 when you kind of look at it from a big picture perspective. But on the field right now in 2025, Cincinnati's got a chance to turn it around. If they could win this week against BYU, they're back in the conversation if some tiebreakers go their way to get to Arlington, whereas Arizona, I think, is just looking to really finish strong and get to 10 wins possibly if they can get win in a bowl game.
Yeah, and I think that again, that's as good of a season as you can have, and the reality is that in a conference that is an absolute mess at the top, and you have an extremely bad, very, very bottom. The thing is that makes this conference, I think, different, and unfortunately it's weird because I think they get penalized for it, is that 1 through 8 is really dang good, and you don't necessarily have that across the other big conferences. So I think that's one thing that we got to keep our eye on, is teams like Arizona, and you got to be quick not to just go, is a coach going to be on his way out, or is a coach going to be the coach of the year? Like, you have to have somewhere between there, right? Because Brent Brennan, at some point this year, people are going, is he on the hot seat? And we love saying that. We love saying the coaching hot seat. It's either they're having a coach of the year type season, or they're having the worst year ever that a coach could have. And the reality is it's somewhere more in the middle for guys like Brent Brennan, who have, by the way, built a great culture there. After the disaster of how Jed Fish left Arizona, to do what he's done right now, I think is phenomenal. So that's a kudos to them, and I think Arizona and Arizona State need to be good programs for this Big 12 going forward. Let's take a break. We'll come back. Interesting piece of sound from the College Football Playoff Committee chairman this week. The question was asked by our very own Mitch Harper. What is going on? How come you're putting some of these teams ahead of where they're at? And look, I don't think anybody has real answers, but we'll hear from what the committee chair had to say this week when the playoff rankings were revealed. Stay with us right here. It's 1st and 12 on KSL News Radio.